educators understand various facets of Indian history, present, and the way forward. So, when we talk about Indian history, the freedom struggle forms a critical and an integral part of the Indian history. And when we talked about the freedom struggle, very few of us know about the role of tribal community in the struggle, in the freedom struggle, and that is a subject that is going to be introduced to us by our expert today, Dr. Reeta Sony. So, a quick introduction about our person, the speaker today. We have with us Dr. Reeta Sony, who is an associate professor, Center for Study of Law and Governance in the JNU, New Delhi. And the talk is titled as From Forest to Freedom, Tribal Contributions to Indian Independence. So the brief introduction about our speaker, Dr. Reeta Sony is an associate professor at the Center of Study of Law and Governance, CSLG, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, with over 14 years of academic and research experience, specializing in the intersection of law, science, technology, and society, intellectual properties, and cyber law. Holding a PhD, LLM, LLB, and a BA, BAL, her academic excellence is highlighted by a UGC Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship and a Postal Fellowship at the Higher School of Economics in Moscow. Alongside her legal scholarship, she possesses technical certifications such as CCNA, MCSA, and has contributed to the MHRD UGC EGE PG Patashala project and actively engages with professional bodies like the Internet Society and the Computer Society of India. Madam, we are all eagerly waiting to know more about this less spoken or maybe less known topic of the critical role that the tribal communities played in our struggle for freedom. Namaste, madam, and welcome. Over to you.
Namaste, namaste to all the viewers at the same time. Thank you for such a generous introduction. And I'm very much grateful to Disha Bharat and their initiatives. And it's a wonderful program. And namaste and sabko mera pranam. Now I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation. Is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. The topic, today's topic is From Forest to Freedom, the tribal contribution to India's independence. The topic itself, From the Forest to Freedom, you can take different context for this topic because forest are itself is a free place, itself, it's a free land for, for Indian philosophy. If you look at the philosophy, any kind of philosophy of life or philosophy of science, okay? So India always gives importance to ecocentric approach. The nature is center point, whereas the Western philosophy always goes by the anthropocentric, human is the center point, whereas India is not like that. So people who stays in forest are like, it was quite common for us, for Indian culture and India means society. So today, like, it's a unique topic. Why? Because what are the contribution of those people who stayed in the forest? I don't want to define the word tribal here. I don't want to define it because there are so many meanings for the tribal, so many definitions for the tribal, because it is studied by many people, defined by many people with this different perspectives. But here I am very much plain to explain you the tribal means who are the tribal, and I don't want to define that, but I'm going to explain who are the tribal for this context and for this topic. So From the Forest to Freedom is not merely a title. It is a claim, thesis for argument for today. about where India's freedom struggle actually began. Not only in city centers or council chamber, but in the forest, not only with the pen, but with the bow and the axe. And not only among those who history remembered, but among the great many whom it is very nearly forgot. It is to complete the picture of Bharat, how the Bharat won its freedom. Because we don't know the complete picture, how it won the freedom, who are the like background story, and to acknowledge the struggle of our tribal warriors. So today's topic is not about his story or her story, and it is not the history. It is not the history. It is all about the life, all about the community, their struggle, their real struggle. It can be studied through the archival research. It can be studied with different methods and methodologies. But it is true and it is fact. And we are going to discuss about this because whatever the definition, whatever the conventional narratives of Indian freedom struggle has a familiarship as of now, because from past so many decades and centuries, it begins, we often told, with the founding of Indian National Congress in 1885. It gathers force through the Swadeshi movement, the campaign of Mohandas Gandhi, and the mass mobilization of 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, and it culminates in independence at midnight on 15th August 1947. And in this story, there are lawyers, journalists, and the reformers educated in colonial system operating from the great cities of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. This is the story we know. But the narrative is wrong. I'm not saying the narrative is wrong, but it is incomplete. Because it's just, I want to give an example. For European, they will write that who found India through like sea routes. They say that Vasco da Gama. This should be the story for Europeans, not for Indians. For India, we lived our life here. We have our history, we have our civilization, we have our culture. For them, law is all about ruling, state control. For us, it is dharma, it is duty bound. For them, in India, we don't have any kind of institutional system because their institutional system is different. They have class system. Here they treat class system as a class system. So the narrative should be set, and we need a complete story for this, this topic, and we have to like learn about it. Today we are going, the entire thesis is all about this. So in India, we have like tribal population around 8.6 at present. It is not only tribal, means it includes nomadic tribal, semi-nomadic tribal, denotified tribal. But then during 17th century, 16th century, 19th century, it was not divided like that. Just the people who stayed in the forest, away from the city culture, away from all this, they were considered as a tribals. Today's law, colonial laws, like they define so many things, and we practice that, and that is what we have at present. So if you look at this picture, you can understand that there are around 705 officially notified scheduled tribes as per the constitution. That was not there, in this story. And more than 1,200 notified, denotified, and semi nomadic tribals at present in India. And they spread across the country: Central East, Western, Northeast, South India, southern part of India. Means Bharat ka dakshin bhag mein. It is not South India or North India. Bharat ka uttar bhag और भारत का दक्षिण भाग, पश्चिम भाग और पूर्व भाग, सभी में, means they have like spread across the country. So we are going to learn about this today. So in this story of independence, our mind naturally pictures the grand political assemblies, famous speeches, urban agitation, marches, urban political organizations, but not the tribal and the forest, and we never can imagine that, the stories, the freedom fighters from the forest, from Nagpur or Western Ghats, Northeast or Eastern Ghat, there were like many people who fought, and we have no idea about it because we never read about it. There is no literature about it. And they thought, there is a, means the question may rise like, why is nationalism, people fought there for local governance, self-governance, for their land, for their forest right. Okay. Do you call it as this as a nationalism? Do you call this as a, the fight and part of the independence? But here, the picture is very clear that they considered this land as a punya bhumi. The nomadic tribals, पूरे अपने पैरों से सारे अखंड भारत में अपना संस्कार और संस्कृति को घूमते घूमते ही जता दिया. Now also you can see we do this, pujas, like you can see, observe the statue of Ganesha. No, part of the Ganesha is like elephant. But Vriksha, but Savitri, we do this pujas. We accepted they're part of our life. And they struggle. And how they considered this motherland as a punya bhumi, because they also fought against this colonial power. And for colonial ruler, land was just meant to be enclosed, forest meant to be timbered, and human beings were meant to be settled, registered, and heavily taxed, which was not part of their life. They were free. The forest was their life. The resources of the forest was their life. If you take the nomadic communities, their culture, their music, their dance, the storytelling, oral tradition. During the British rule also, like, they played a major role. They used to think that this nomadic tribal mobile means communities are like circulatory system or Indian revolution. They used to pass the messages. They used to supply the bows and arrows. They played a major role as a messenger between the kingdoms. But for colonial authors and historians, this struggle was only primitive rights or law and order disruption or isolated agrarian distress. That's it. It was not part of the freedom struggle. But you can look at the massacres. Manghar, nearly 1,500 Bills community been killed by Britishers. Govinda, I'm going to tell you the story later. So what was the purpose? The purpose is all about their land, water, and the forest protection. But ultimate aim was what? To protect their motherland. Okay. There was no political no definition for this by then. There was no introduction of word nationalism by then. But if you see, in 1940s, in Jodered massacre, you can see this 1900 Dombini Baru Hall battle massacre. Even in Karnataka, in Bagalkot, the Beda community, more than 230 people died because of the situation. They could not control the colonial power, who were like very eager to capture their land, eager to put means lot of tax on their agricultural income. So I thought, let me take some sort of framework to study this subject. What kind of narratives we have to set? Because without framework, we cannot go ahead. So I thought, let me take some classical books. So first I took the Indian War of Independence, 1857 by Vinayak Damodar Savarkarji. So there he reconceptualizes the anti-colonial uprising as an integrated national-wide war for Swadharma, self-religion and culture, self-culture, and Swarajya, self-rule. It lays the framework for viewing early independence tribal revolts as a foundational bedrock for national consciousness. And he also says it has dual motives, Swadharma and Swarajya. The tribal uprising was fought for two interconnected ideas. One is Swadharma, self-religion or cultural integrity, protecting indigenous tradition, civilization identity, and faith from British evangelical and colonial interference in their practice, in their religion. And Swarajya, self-rule, political sovereignty, okay, eradicating foreign imperial rule, British rule to restore native governance. This is the dual motive of Swarajya and Swadharma, which he has already mentioned in his book, Indian War of Independence in the year of 1857. And Virendra Damodar Savarkarji reinterpreted the event traditionally dismissed by the British historian as a localized Sipahi mutiny into the First World War of Independence. In the year of 1909, the Indian War of Independence 1857, written while in London, Savarkarji argued that the uprising was neither a mere military revolt nor a localized mutiny over a greased cartridges, but a planned national-wide war fought against national liberation. His idea was entirely different because the historian, the colonial historian and colonial means the government wanted to give some other face to it. So another three classical literature. Anandamad by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyaya, 1882. A foundational political novel that depict armed forest-based indigenous rebellion against foreign exploitation. It gave India its national song Vande Mataram, symbolizing the defense of Mother India, Bharat Mata. And A Soul of India by Bipin Chandrapal, 1911, explores the spiritual basis of Indian nationalism, arguing that resistance to foreign rule stemmed from the innate civilizational desire to preserve native social order, spiritual tradition, and customary ties to the soil. And finally, even in Hind Swaraj, Mahatma Gandhi, he gave importance for Gram Swaraj, self-reliant village republic. He said, if India follows the British, the India will ruin. He gave importance for the person who makes some product should have the ability to regulate that market as well. In Hind Swaraj, he gave importance for self-governance. So if you look at these four literature, classical literature, everywhere they have tried their level best to make us understand all these, whatever the tribal insurgent rebellions, revolution happened in the forest, is part of the Indian national movement and towards it's a travel towards the Indian freedom, independence, because it's all about self-governance, all about self sovereignty, sovereign self respect. And if we look at this literature and the background, we can understand three truths. Number one is tribal resistance was not isolated or reactionary. It was the first line of defense for India's civilizational and territorial sovereignty. It was not at all an event. It was not a story. It was not, because it is not written anywhere. And second, the tribal concept of Jal, jungle, and Jameen, water, forest, and land. This was the slogan made by Komram Bhim in the year of 1900 to 1940. He is from Telangana and Gond community, tribal community. He fought against Nizams and the British rulers in Telangana. And he was the one who died during the Jadegat massacre. And now also in India, his slogans are like very famous because this was the like it means if you look at this statement, it's all about self-governance, self-respect, self-protection, own land means my land, motherland, Punya Bhumi. Then if you look at Birsa Munda, he says, Abuwa Raj Seter Jana, Maharani Raj Tudu Jana, means let the kingdom of Queen be ended and our kingdom be established. Was not merely an economic demand, or it was not a demand for just for water or jungle, or it was not for only the resources. It was all about the sovereignty. It was all about the space, all about the freedom. They wanted to have their own swaraj, self-rule, free from foreign interference. So whatever they tried, it is all about the self, swaraj, self-rule, sovereignty, sovereign power, or want to have their own land or own punya bhumi. So the third one is indigenous communities recognized the predatory, extractive nature of foreign rule decades before the urban intelligentsia. They understood before, like means in advance, 100 years, means a century or like decades, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades before. The Indian National Congress formed in the year of 1980, means 1855. But before that, so the war of Indian independence did not start in the year of 1857. It began nearly a century earlier in the forest, in the jungles of Bharat, by different tribal communities, nomadic tribal communities, or tribal communities as mentioned in the constitution. Now we have many bifurcation as based on the law, but by then we never had that sort of classification. So what was the problem? What made them to fight? What made them to fight against these British rulers? Because they had a concept in India. We always believe in Vidyadhana, Vastradhana, all this. Even on the knowledge, we never try to create property rights. But the concept of open society is harming us. That is different story. But here, I want to just tell you that we believed in the community living, sharing, harmony, with the harmony with the nature. One tribal never hurt the another tribal. That is the recent phenomena. But before, they never had that kind of no problem in the tribal communities. They used to pray different gods and goddesses, but nature was the center power for them. They had their own self-governance system. They had their own way of means leading their life in a proper scope, proper way of life. So the land was like owned by the community, and it is governed by village councils. We may call it as a village panchayat as well. But after 1793 and before as well, the Britishers started to have impose private property, and zamindars started to control the communal land. And money lending. Money lending means they used to like lend the money to tribal people for like more than 50 or 100 times interest, extra interest. Means zamindar is the colonial historian says that it is all local structure. Zamindar is feudal structure. But many historians, they also say that there were British ruler behind this jamindaris and feudal system, They stood behind them by holding their armies. That is what made them very strong. So just we cannot hide this, a great, great history or a great event. I don't want to call it as a history, great event, just as an incident, as or an event, because we don't have any proper literature on this. The literature on this is research trend. I cannot use many pictorial things here because I don't know, because we don't know who exactly was. Means they have to narrate as Birsa Munda used to look like this, or many tribal leaders used to look like this, and we have to go for ethnographic study, archival research. Later we have to make some sketches because we such a great history, great past we have, but we never try to make it in dissonance. We never made it actually successfully. Never try to convey this to people and write in black and white. And the forest law, the forest act, such as Madras Forest Act 1882, declared the forest as a state property, restricted free movement, criminalized shifting cultivation. Podu means they whoever cut the forest, and they try to make that land as a productive no land for agriculture and for other purpose. And British government said, to the Forest Act, that this is the state property. They cannot use, and if they want to use, they have to ask the permission from the British government. That's how, even in case of nomadic tribal communities, all these nomadic tribal communities or tribal communities, sabhi dene wale mein the, lene wale mein se koi nahi tha. They used to share many medicinal properties, many things from the forest, and they used to, it was a barter system. They used to take it and give it. There was no money exchange at all. But completely, the government, the British government and colonial laws stop these forest dwellers to use their resources. Aaj aapko means you cannot see the monkey. Monkey, they used to bring monkeys and bears and used to lead their life, economic life, because monkey dance, and I used to see snakes, the nomadic tribal communities. We used to see that. But now it's a criminal act. They cannot do it. So they don't have any other option because they don't know other professions. So now, because of the colonial laws and many other enacted amendment laws in India, they're jobless. Otherwise, they were very much fruitful people. Lene wale se mein nahi the, dene wale se mein the wo. So these four grievances were economic and cultural at once, but to lose land, forest, and self-governance was to lose not only the livelihood, but a religion and identity itself. So they lost the land, self-governance, the forest, everything. And it is just like losing the religion, dharma, then at the same time, the identity of their own. So this is the background story. But who fought for this freedom struggle? Who were part of this freedom struggle? So all these communities, there are here the Munda Ulgulan and Shadtala Hul. Hul means it's a revolution. Meaning of Hul is revolution. And Ulgulan is also a revolution. Word of revolution or krantikari, jo hum bolte hain. These are very prominent. This plays very prominent role. But before this, 1899 or 1900, there was a incident related to Baba Tilka Manzi in the year of 1750 to 1785. He was an iconic Santala tribal leader and one of the earliest revolutionary in the Indian history to wage armed resistance against the British East India Company. And we call it as Tilka movement. And no, it happened between 1978 and 1778 and 1785. So he tried to mobilize Santal and Pahari tribes across the Santala Paraganas using traditional weapons, bows, and poisoned arrows. And he tried to, launch a guerrilla attack against the British rulers. And also, he also assassinated Augustus Cleveland in the year of 1784. And finally, they dragged him, they captured him in the year of 1785, and they publicly hanged him in the year of 1785. He was the first freedom fighter, or it's a revolutionary from the tribal land. And the second one is coal uprising in the year of 1831. You can see the timeline here, and 1832. So it is initiated from Chota Nagpur region, and Buddha Bhagat Jitrai Monkey was the leader of this tribal people, and they were like combination of Mundas, Wos, and Worans. And the violence started between like 1831 and 32. Nearly 2 years they fought against British rulers. And what was the reason? The revenue and the tax, highest of the tax on everything, all forest producers or whatever they produce, was the reason. The third one is the bill rising in Western and Central India from 1818 to 1883, 1831. The bill community spread across the hills of Western Ghats and Vindhya and Satpura ranges. Govind Guru was the leader of this revolutionary act, and he tried to gather many Bhil community, because it was like part of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. He tried to gather people to fight against the Britishers, because they did try to disturb their hill economy. But again, it started like they tried to suppress them by using their military power. And Manghar, there is an incident happened in the Manghar, and now also means more than 1,500 Bills and other communities died during that incident. And their Tantia Bill was one of the person who fought against them, and now also they call him as a Indian Robin Hood, because he used to take things and many things from Britishers and used to distribute among tribal communities. And another important incident was Tirot Singh and Khasi resistance, against British. And he was a chief of Khasi people. He at present we call it as a Meghalaya. Northeast. Why we always refer Northeast and tribal and revolutionaries and all these stories from Northeast, because these two revolutionary things happened in Northeast. One is Santala Hul and Birsa Munda Ulgaon. These two revolutionary incidents are very important in the tribal history, because more than 10,500 people died during this Munda Ulgaon. And during Santala Ul, there are like many people, again, more than, the statistics may be wrong, more than 10,000 people died. So always, we try to give these case studies from East, but at the same time, we do have Many incidents, many revolutionary events which took place in Kerala, Kurumba community and Korachia community. Even they fought against the Britishers. The same reason, agrarian land, the capturing agrarian land, then the taxation, wrong revenue system, legal system, okay, which they never had any sort of experience. So these are like means many incident, like many the if you look at the event which took place in northeast or western Ghats or eastern Ghats, even southern part of India, it was like not it did not take place in the cities or like in urban no land in urban centers, because they wanted to protect their no resources, their life, which was like land, water, and no zameen, their primary sources. So along with that, I want to just explain you about the Santal Hul, which took place around 1855 to 1856. So Hul means, already I told you, it's a revolutionary. Meaning of Hul means it can be revolutionary, struggle, or rebellion. So the Britishers directed this Santhal community to fix one place, proper place, that is Rajmal Hill, around in and around of, and they call it as the skirts of the hills, Deminico. So they told them to like have a land and try to cut the forest, and you can stay here, you can have your like colonies here or village here, and they try to settle their life. And after just one generation, they try to introduce the jamindaris, the money lenders, other third business no business entities enter into their land, and they started to like bargain with them, negotiate with them to purchase the land, but they were not ready to give up on their land or their resources, whatever time they spent to make it productive land. So there were four brothers: Siddho Murmu, Kanhu Murmu, Chand Murmu, and Bhairav Murmu. They fought against the Britishers along with other tribal, Santal tribal people, because they also said that Sandhu and Kanu declared that the Santhal deity Thakur Bonga had appeared to them and commanded them to throw off the rule of Dikus and British and to establish Santal Raj, a kingdom of their own. So the brothers started this they just like try to bring the fusion of divinity and the political no ambition to have their own kingdom. And along with that, their sisters Pulo and Jano Murmu also fought along with their brothers. So six of them, they tried to fight against this British ruler who wanted to take their land and their resources. Finally, they lost the war, they lost the everything, but the Britishers got the first lesson that they cannot like they cannot deal with the tribal people who had lots of unity among them. They were very strong, but they never had this modern technical tools, techniques and tools, the military system, rifles to fight against Britishers. But they had strong willpower to fight for their motherland. This was one of the no, very important uh, uh, revolution which took place in Santhala region of Northeast. And the second one is Birsa Munda and Ulgam, which took place in 1899 and 1900, between 1899 and 1900. And Santalas took fusion of two strands, that is divine and the political one. But here in Birsa Munda's case, he took fusion of three strands. What was the three strands? Number one, religious revival, because Birsa Munda studied in colonial school. He had an opportunity to study in the school, but he converted himself. But later on, he suggested people to come back to their own religion, and he just told people to stay away from the Christian missionaries who wanted to convert their religion. And he thought his unity, his strength, his people, his society is all about his tradition, all about his all about what practices they had before. And the second one was political mobilization. He said, let us have our own land. The British, we should free ourselves from this Britishers, and we should have our own Munda Raj. And the third stand was armed struggle. He believed in the revolutionary, great rebellion. He was a rebellion. He believed in that. He believed in tradition, religion, own religious practices. He told people to be disciplined. He was against to all other bad habits, because somewhere he learned from because he got the exposure to be with the Britishers, but he learned the lesson from them. So he believed in religious revival, political mobilization, at the same time armed struggle. He believed in the unity and strong army. Strong people can come together. People can come together and fight against any sort of system. And finally, he was around like 24 or 25 years. First, they captured him and they tortured him. Again, they left him out, and again, he was like he was in the jail, and he died in the year of 1900. But later on, the British government started to bring many more laws related to land regulation, forest regulation. Then at the same time, because they were like, Britishers wanted this tribal people, to work as a laborers, land laborers, at the same time, warriors in the war. They wanted to take these people and export them as a coolies or laborers to other countries. And they did it. And we can see many cases in the history. So these two rebellion events, Santhala and Munda Ulga, played a major role and set an example for many other tribals in the west, in the east, in the southern part. If you look at in the southern part in Karnataka, Sangoli Rayanna and Beda community of Bagalkot, they fought against the Britishers. Sangoli Rayanna's story is like depicted everywhere, in the cinema and the drama. It is also part of the school textbook. And as I told you, people from Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Alluri Sitaramaraju, fought against the forest law. And the next event is the Tana Bhagat movement from 1914. And Tana Bhagat, he is also from Chota Nagpur. He believed in Ahimsa Marg. He told people to practice vegetarianism, free from no alcohol. He had different approach. He thought purification or discipline, life is very much important. The community should practice that. And their followers are called as Tana Bhagats. And they were the followers of Gandhiji, and later on, they tried to join the freedom movement. And they also brought the Land Revenue Act, Tana Bhagat, later on they brought, and they tried to free the land. So Govind Guru and Manghar Massacre, 1913. He brought all the tribals from Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat. They came together, and they called this as a Adivasi Jallianwala Bagh. They try to compare this with Jallianwala Bagh incident, because many people died while revolting against the British. So if you look at this, these are not history. This is not the story. This happened in our country, in Bharat, in India. So all it started from 1770s. And very recently, in the year of 2021, the government of India declared 15th November as a Janjatiya Gaurav Divas, because it was Birsa Munda's birthday, and they recognized it. And the recent, you can find the literature from the recent past. But whatever the history we have in the textbook, or you go for archival research, yet to conduct those kind of archival research, they say that this is all incident. It was all revolt against the agricultural practice, or it's all just it is just a common incident. All colonial historians, and there are many authors. They were nationalists by then, and now today they are communist. And they wrote many books by saying that it was all India's system, Jamindari system, feudal system, the caste system, what we had. Because of that, they fought. Because of that, it happened. There is less literature which says that. But one of the author, but he says that no, there was British army, British people were behind this system. So only it became the reason. Otherwise, we don't have any literature as such. But you can see the incidents from 1700, how many centuries? 19th and 20th century. So if you look at this, tribal uprising of southern part, as I told you, Korichia and Kurumba from Wayanad, they also fought against cash revenue, collection of land, and seizing the lands. And from Andhra Pradesh, Alluri Ramaraju, we call it as a Rampa Revolt, 1879, because they taxed on toddy tapping and loss of Podu lands. And he was not a tribal, but the tribal people believed in him. They used to call him as a hero. Finally, they took so many years, 2 to 3 years, to catch him and hanged him. The British government hanged him. And Chanchu Satyagraha, Telangana. Because again, the common land, the community land, was captured by the British state, the British government. They were not allowed to enter to graze their means they cannot use it. They could not use it for their daily purpose. Then Kumran Bhim, his Jal Jameen, and this dialogue is very famous, and now also people use it very often. And the next one is nomadic tribal communities. The Britishers thought nomadic tribal communities are like messenger between the states and between the different state and kings. But these people were like very free. They were known for their culture, the dance and music. They used to pass the messages to Britishers through the dance, storytelling, oral tradition. They used to supply many things. But they brought Criminal Tribal Act in the year of 1871. They also called them as the thugs of India. They declared more than 215 communities as criminal tribals. Because why do they consider as a criminal? Because they had no other professions to do, because there was like the British government brought many laws, forest laws, and now like animal rights and many more laws now also. So they had no other profession. They tried to go for alternative professions. And they thought only these people are communicating the information about Britishers and their ideas. And Britisher always, like colonial people, always believed in settled land, settled people, because they wanted laborers, they wanted tax. They thought if we make people to settle down, then we can make use of them. We can stop, these people by traveling. And more than 250 communities became criminal tribals. And this amendment allowed the state to remove the children in criminal traits. Even a kid who take birth in this nomadic tribal community also considered as a criminal. So the Criminal Tribal Act actually there means more than like the Britishers were more criminals. They had their own own way of life in their country, and they tried to compare with us. For example, they say that we never had any kind of communication system, any kind of formal institution in India. Whatever is formal for them, that was not formal for us. So if you look at, if they look at us with their framework, they thought we don't have anything, and they have done so many things for us. The history is written by them. The data are stored by them. If you look at Botanical Survey of India or many other organizations with the institution which they established to survey the natural resources of India. If you take intellectual property right laws, all these laws are derived from the international treaties. It is enacted by the parliament because we are a member to WTO. In one or the other way, they try to subjugate us. They try to tell us that you don't have anything and we are like the one who brought everything to you. So those people, the colonial rulers, they considered 250 plus communities are criminal tribal communities by birth. And up to 1952, Habitual Offender Act, we also celebrate as a Vimukti Divas. जो लोग मुक्त होके घूम रहे थे जंगलों में, मुक्त होके सारा अखंड भारत में घूम रहे थे, उन लोगों को आपने बांध लिया, लॉ बना दिया, उनका उनका जो भी प्रोफेशन था उससे छीन लिया, एंड फाइनली मुक्त लोगों को बांधने के बाद आप बोल रहे हो आज वो विमुक्त हो गए. What sort of justice it is? So even Indian government took lots of time. Now also many communities are suffering because they don't have any identities, because this is the result of the British rulers, their government, their policies, their laws. The government of India very recently at least amended 3 laws. Otherwise, we had the same Evidence Act, same Civil Procedure, same Criminal Procedure Act. So whatever story they told, just like, who found, India, Vasco da Gama, it is the story for European, but not for Indians. But we do not have those kind of contents in our textbook. We don't have any sources, any sort of arrangements to communicate this knowledge, communicate this sort of facts. It's not a knowledge, it's a facts. And that has become history, and history is written by many influential people. For them, it is though it is the tribal communities, whatever they have done and their contribution is just an event. Just it happened because of our the structure, Indian structure, and the way we had from past so many this is our civilization way back. They try to narrate this story. So here, what would be the solution? Like, what is the solution now? We should consider, and there is like many things and many evidence now. The research is going on, but how to make this, because we are not expecting, we are not expecting something like which can be written and kept it in the library, because it is part of, fundamentally restructure how to understand the birth of nation. Actually, it's all about the nation, independence, nationalism. They played huge role. So it should not like left just for the sake of publishing the research article and the paper. Only after 2020 or 2021, lot sits in the court. We can make laws, but who is going to provide the justice for this? Justice means to consider this larger movement, consider this revolution, this struggle. We should not leave this as an incident or an event. It should be part of, and it is part of the independence. Their contribution should be recognized. Already the government is doing it, but only few people, only few institutions, only it is taking place. Even even in the universities, when we write something on this, there are very less people, less publisher accepts our book. And when we conduct the research by taking government fundings, one will definitely expect me to publish in Springer or Routledge. So what, like, the knowledge should be circulated, knowledge should be communicated. People of Bharat, people of India, they should understand, they should know these facts. How to communicate this? If I publish in those journals and articles, even the library cannot bring because it is about 30,000, 35,000. So how to do this? How to demonstrate it? or how to practically do it, it's a question. Now we can read the stories. Now we can understand many things, but how to come out of it and how to make it as a, you know, make it as a, like, make it very practical that people, each and everyone, at least in the institution level, university level, they should understand, like, these happened in India, and this is also part of the freedom struggle, and they also contributed, and it has not happened later on. It took place in the primary, like, it took place, and after that only, like, we try to learn from them, or somewhere we try to recognize them. They're not learned people, or they're not formally educated from formal institutions. They had their own skill set, own traditions, own culture. They try to no try to protect this motherland, Punya Bhumi. It's not only about the Bharat, it is all about the Akhanda Bharat. By then, they were part of Akhanda Bharat. The story is, so only I'm telling you, tribal means not constitutionally mentioned tribal. A tribal means not only this, no, only this, the recent map. The story took place long back. So the event took place long back. The revolution took place long back. So we have to create that story, and we have to bring that imagination. That we have to bring those literature. We have to, make those, those, those events should be, that should be the part of, national, national, academic or curriculum, or it should be mandated in the higher education, or we should channelize it, properly and thoroughly, so that, we can think that, this is part of the freedom struggle. Nationalism, we cannot say that the word nationalism was not there. The political ideology was not there. They never had education. They never had this kind of thoughts, but they had a thoughts, no thought of owning their own land, no free land, free life, community, harmony, nature-centric life. And we should, like, we should think of it, and we should take further, no further action towards this, and we should have more and more programs in the schools and colleges, and we should bring some changes. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, madam. It is mostly we say, the history that was actually a part of the history that was actually kept in dark, and you really threw a light on that. And your speech was actually a kind of a big revelation that Indian tribal communities actually played a pioneering and maybe a fierce role in the freedom struggle, and probably they launched some of the earliest resistance against either British colonial exploitation or the land alienation or forest loss, much before the main national movement, that is national level movement, actually gained momentum. So I think they kind of hit the spark for the freedom fight, and then I think it spread there. So it was actually a very enlightening and a talk, which I think, yes, most of us had very little idea of. And thank you so much for enlightening us on this topic, madam. We had a lot of questions, but due to paucity of time, at least some of the questions I thought we could just pose. Many of the questions that we had, you have actually answered in your speech itself. So is it okay if you can take one or two questions, madam?
Yeah, please, please.
Okay, so yeah, some of the, see, like you said, many things can be done for bringing out the contribution of. So if you were to list the top three that are actually going to be having a high impact in actually, one, making people aware of these contribution to tribal, where do you think these changes should start? Do you think it should start from being included in the curriculum, or what kind of three critical steps can be taken to address what the issue that you said, madam?
Yeah, it should be like, no, it should start from the school level,
Mm.
right? Because if you look at the tables like A for apple, B for ball, and C for, I don't know X for xylophone what exactly it is, but my son always try to like practice it, and I don't know the meaning, right?
Exactly.
So no, so always we should have like our own sort of no curriculum for the school children. No, it should start from the primary level, school level. At the same time, higher education. At the same time, no, even the government should accept, no, even the no, higher education, the institution should bring some sort of publication, and at least fix some places, like some space in
Mm.
the newspaper, and to to publish the articles, dedicated no place in the newspaper, and they can no, bring many more changes in the government policy level. But it should start from the no, primary level. No, they should understand, the children should understand,
Mm.
and later on they should include no, it in a curriculum. At the same time, many other programs like your initiative, so they can bring prizes, they can bring some sort of some sort of programs in the government, so that people can understand, if we do this we can get this, because we have to do some sort of strategies to implement this.
So if see one, I think common thread that at least from your talk I saw was the tribals that they shared was, I think nature was a big unifier for them. I mean,
Yes,
you said they actually kind of showed the diverse unity in diversity, because I think nature was kind of a unifier. Like this, if the youth has to learn some two three values from this tribal community, because I think it is because of those values that they had that fierce and energy. So if there are some two three values that you think was a common thread and that actually energized and aided them in this movement, what do you think?
definitely, madam. Definitely. Actually, see, like we always trusted in formal education, right? Only if the child studies in the school and if he gets some degree, he can survive. It is not like that. Now the universities are producing more and more degrees, not the job, right? But if
Correct.
you look at the tribal communities or nomadic tribal communities or semi-nomadic tribal communities, they always believed in themselves, their own way of. So only I told you in Hindi that they were part of देने वाले थे लेने वाले नहीं. They were not expecting anything from the government. They had their own skill set, then own way of doing and living, and now these days what we do is like, if the child or if someone is working in the farm or someone is working in the some industries, we in the name of many things we try to bring them back, and we put in the formal schooling and formal institution, formal education system. So
Correct.
my idea here is, more than what India needs is, India do not need at present the more and more degrees, degree
Correct.
producing universities and institution. They need more and more skill based, institution, and that if that skill is really, for example, if some communities are well known in weaving, some communities are good at doing some products, some communities, for example, Kalbelia community from
Correct.
Rajasthan, they are good at dancing, they
Mm.
believed in the, if you look at Chennai, like they have the snake park, because snake poison is one of the
Correct.
important ingredients in cancer treatment,
Correct.
and they have come up with that, you know but very recently, when I had a communication, like a talk with a nomadic tribal community from Kalbelia, they say that many people from Bangladesh, they have come here and they are snatching the no, our job, and they are catching the snakes, and they are producing the this kind of products, and we don't have any opportunities.
Correct.
So in India, is a nomadic tribal community person cannot have it, so this sort of arrangements we have to see, and
Correct.
we
Correct.
have to change. There is a need of structural change in the system.
Correct. The holistic learning or education that we had in our ancient times was actually followed by tribal, but I think somehow, like you said, in the name of education, we are kind of changing those things. Uh,
Definitely, definitely. Only school education is a education. Only that is going to give us the job. That orientation we have, and that is no, that is what the colonialized mindset, and we have to
Correct.
decolonialize ourselves, and we have
Correct.
to free ourselves from that.
And I think a study of such tribal community can actually make us more aware and to this holistic life than this, fragmented learning process that we are
Definitely,
on.
because that is what rather than well-formed mind, we need like well-framed mind. We need well-formed mind, actually.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, well-formed mind. And if you look at means if you go to any village, a child can handle many things. He will help his mother. He will go to field. He will sell the milk. He will handle many things. But at
Exactly.
home, no. No, to have a dinner or lunch, to do everything daily chores, we have to remind them. You
Correct.
know so this is the structure we have at present. So we should believe in that no that no self no awareness and self profession. And when the tribal communities are known for that, those skill set. Now also you can see that in intellectual property rights, they are giving geographical indication,
Correct.
brand,
GI tags.
they can sell those kind of product online, right?
Correct.
They have
Yes.
many more opportunities, and one should have that idea. And government of India also providing more and more, like no no encouraging business entities to do no many schemes and no fundings. And we should travel towards that rather than doing many more PhDs and many more degrees.
Madam, before we let you go, one message that you would want to give to the youth who are watching this program, especially related to your topic, what do you think is either they should have it as a key takeaway or an action point that they can work towards the topic that you have handled,
And
madam?
point is, don't be afraid of taking this kind of topics.
Mm.
Don't be afraid of no means if you say that many in many places I have seen them, like one should, like, if I am from nomadic tribal community, if I am from Banjara community, I should tell them, like, it's a
Mm.
proud feeling
It's
that
an
I am from
identity.
this community. I
Mm.
possess this knowledge. I am from here. No, I am from. No, you should feel proud about what you are, right? And
Exactly.
we should feel proud about like whatever they have done for us. And means always we cannot be like all five fingers are not equal, right? So always don't pose yourself as you have come from something, and no need to dress up yourself and copy some other person, and no need to like no, because see, for example, I am from the tribal community, and very limited opportunity I will get to learn in no English medium school or Oxford or Harvard. And if some professor or some student who is learned no in that degree in Harvard and Oxford, if they explain me what is hunger and right, I won't believe in that. So
Correct, correct.
hunger and right or untouchability, whatever it may be, it's a feeling. So one should remain as what he is or what she is, and they should represent what they are, and they should represent their community. They should feel proud about their nation, proud about their community, proud about their knowledge. One should have their originality.
Wow, well said, madam. I think we could not, we can't add any more lines to finish this wonderful session than what you have told. Thank you so much for sparing time and enlightening us with such a wonderful topic. And I think I'll hand it over to Disha Bharat and on behalf of Disha Bharat and myself, thank you so much for this wonderful session, madam.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Ji.
That was a very enlightening talk. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., we are going to have students speaking on interesting topics, live sketch of Chandrasekhar Azad and Bharat and Youth, women's role in Bharat development, sharp at 7 a.m. Do join us as students speak on the theme My Bharat, My Responsibility. And tomorrow evening, we're going to have with us Ami Ganatra ma'am, very renowned author thinker from Mumbai. She'll be talking on the topic The Glorious Literary History of India, Ancient Wisdom and Modern Expressions. Tomorrow evening 7 p.m. Looking forward to meet you all. Please join in large numbers and get enriched with knowledge. Thank you. Namaste. Bolo Bharat Mata Ki Jai.